Welcome to the show. Disruptors. I'm your host, Aaron Hale. This is Point of Impact. Tony Robbins said, success without fulfillment is the greatest failure. So what's fulfillment? For me, fulfillment is living a life of gratitude, celebration, and contribution. If we just set goals and achieve them, we work, become affluent or whatever you define success, but we don't appreciate our lives. We're not grateful for what we have and who's in our life. If we don't celebrate our past wins and our future wins, and if we don't give back, then is it significant? John Z. Maxwell put it another way. Success is how I add value to my life. Significance is how I add value to others' lives. Adding value is my contribution. And adding contribution is the way to living a life of significance. My guest today is a dear friend. And I'm not talking about a Facebook or Instagram friend or somebody I might have done business with in the past. He's an actual friend. And as I mentioned in the beginning, overlooked for a while as a podcast guest because we just look to names that we're familiar with in books or other podcasts, but have somebody who's making an impact in the world. I can think of none better. Frank Fumich is an entrepreneur. He's an investor. He's a family man, husband, father. He's also an ultra endurance athlete and has done some absolutely crazy challenges. He's an adventurer. And he's given so much, not just in money, but of himself in contributing. He's given so much of himself contributing to others, more so than I think of anybody I've ever known. So I'm looking forward to introducing you to my friend Frank and the conversation we're about to have. Before we get to it, please give the show 5 stars, leave a review, share it with somebody that you think will appreciate it too. And without further ado, my friend, Frank Fumich. Frank, my friend, thank you so much for being on. Welcome to Point of Impact.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you, man.
Well, you know what? It's great to have you on the show because I tell you what, of anybody I can think of that's making an impact, it's my good buddy, Frank. And it was funny too, because when thinking of guest lists for this, it's like you overlook the people closest to you. And you look to authors or other podcasters or whatever, and at some point it just struck me when I was reading a post about Bobo, and I definitely want to get into it. I'm like, wait a second. If anybody's making being the point of impact, the message of this show, it's my friend Frank. So
thanks, man.
First, before we get into all the background, all that, please tell me about what's going on. What's the latest with Bobo? How did this all start? Tell me the story.
Well, before we get into Bobo, I just have one question for you. Shouldn't you be running and training right now instead of doing a podcast? I mean, I think you got a race coming up in a couple of days, but anyway, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so, oh man, Bobo, wow, that's consumed 110% of my mental thought processes the last couple weeks. It's been a 3-year quest I've been on since I met him, basically, or two or three. But now that it's coming to a head, it's just it's overwhelming, and the following that's gotten is just mind blowing. I mean, I can hardly keep up with it all. Yeah, it's incredible.
all your Facebook posts are so cool. You seem so excited, and it's like you're a kid, at Christmas, except it's the opposite. You're just all these gifts that are coming in for Bobo.
Yeah, I mean, I've got like a the Amazon truck coming to my house 5 times a day, and every time I look out my front porch, I see boxes there. It's just a constant reminder of, all the people that were so moved by his story that are giving to a total stranger. It's unbelievable. And based on what's happening in the world today, there's literally nothing good that you see on the news. You click on your computer, it's just bombings and wars and shootings here and political arguments. And I think people were like craving something to root on and something good to follow. And this seems to be it, which is great for Bobo and his family. That's for sure.
So Bobo is here on an immigrant asylum status from a place in Africa that will be undisclosed because there's some danger. But tell me a little bit, like, how did he get out of Africa, and how did you two cross paths?
Well, that's correct. There's still a little bit of worry until his family gets here. I mean, the damage is probably done because, I've talked about it before, but he was peacefully protesting in his country and was arrested and basically beaten and tortured and got released, but then got word that they were maybe going to come back for him again. And so his wife and him decided the best thing for him to do was just to try to get out of his country. So he made it to a neighboring country and eventually made it to the U.S. on a visitor's visa, and then applied for asylum once he got here. And he had no legal representation at all. He had no idea what to do other than he had applied for asylum. And so 5 years passed when I happened to cross paths with him while I was walking my dogs in my neighborhood. Literally, he was carrying like 6 bags of groceries as a side gig, trying to make some extra money. And I mean, I can picture the whole thing like it happened yesterday. He literally stopped as I was walking down and said, "Oh, excuse me, sir," and let me pass with my dogs. And he was so polite and hustling, and immediately my brain started spinning, and it just seemed like there was something about him. And I rounded the corner out of sight from him, and something just made me stop on a dime, turn around, ran back up the hill, and I caught him right as he was getting ready to drive away. Knocked on his window, and he rolled down his window. I thought, when I get these ideas that people are going to think I'm crazy, and I said, "Excuse me, I know it sounds crazy, but are you by chance looking for a job?" Because usually when you see an Uber driver or DoorDash, they either are looking for a job or they're doing that for extra money. And sure enough, he was. I ended up hiring him, and then he immediately became the best employee I have. I have 100-some employees, and then once I was working with him, I just, in casual conversation, said, "Hey, Bobo, what's your story? Where'd you come from?" And that's when the floodgates opened, and he told me that he had applied for asylum but was just waiting aimlessly, and it had been 5 years since he'd seen his wife and his daughter. And I just simply said, "Well, let me look into it. Maybe I can try to help you." Did a Facebook post, told people the story, and immediately had a handful of lawyers or friends of lawyers reach out. And a high school friend of mine reached out with a local firm, put me in touch with them. And that's basically how the whole process started. We got him legal representation. They didn't take the case pro bono, which we had hoped. So, somebody had to pay for it. And that's basically me. And 2 years later, which was April of this year, his asylum was approved. So now he has legal status in the U.S., which was the key. And then once he got that, he was able to apply to have his wife and child here. And they were approved, and now they're coming here next month.
So that's amazing. And how long have they been apart?
It'll be, I didn't know the dates. I've been saying 7, 8 years, but it will be basically 7 years and a month since he left and has last seen them in person.
My
His daughter was 5 years old, and now, she's be 12 and a half.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
No. Can you imagine? I mean, neither one of us with kids can imagine that.
No, it's awful, but the situation is awful, but it sounds like it's turning into a pretty happy ending. In fact, you started just with an inquiry, like, how can I help? And it's really snowballed. It hasn't it? I mean, it's like a runaway train now.
Yeah.
So
more like an avalanche.
What's going on now?
Right. So now we're, I wanted, the goal was to get him legal status, then to get his wife and daughter here, and then to make their arrival as seamless and as worry-free as we could. And he was living in like somebody's basement on just a terrible place for all these years. So we secured him a 2-bedroom apartment. And then, and actually, I mean, of course I had all this in my brain to want to help him, but, it's been suggested by everybody else, like, hey, set up a GoFundMe. Hey, can we buy him supplies? So that's what I did. And I started a wish list on Amazon, and we've literally purchased, I mean, from his beds to his dressers to his couch, his TV, computers for his daughter, glasses, cups for his kitchen, scrub daddies, utensils, towels, everything from top to bottom. They will need absolutely nothing. So all they need to do is concentrate to reunite and, live happily ever after, hopefully, without the stress of all the monetary needs.
Well, I mean, I think didn't I just read a post where you maybe you're even thinking that there might be enough donation money for a down payment on a house?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? We are living in the DC area. You're a real estate guru, so the price. I mean, it's like, second or third most expensive place to live in the country, probably. So, lots of people are like, wow, he could buy a house for that. I mean, but he could definitely buy something. He could buy, and I was actually Googling places in the area code where his apartment is, and he could buy a condo. And, this could literally leapfrog him to the American dream.
It's amazing.
I mean, it is amazing.
So backing up, though, I mean, you were walking the dog. You saw this guy delivering groceries, and he politely, while holding this load of groceries, politely waited for you to pass. And you saw something. But you thought this would make this person would make a great employee, but what kind of business do you run that you can just look at somebody and say, I need that person to work for me?
Well, I own an airline catering company, and I operate in DC, Philly, and Charlotte, North Carolina. And yeah, man, these days it's tough to find people. So it's a hustle business 7 days a week from like 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. or when the last plane comes in, which could be like 2 a.m. And it's tough. It's tough to find reliable people that care about working, that care about the job. And so, when you kind of, I mean, I'm not the best of character all the time. Sometimes I mess up, but it just seemed like something hit me with Bobo that, based on his attitude, and he was hustling, and that he would be a great candidate. And he ended up, and when I do this stuff, I've also hired a dozen Afghan refugees, and I've also paid for their representation. And I don't make anyone sign anything saying they have to stay with me, forever or at all. So there's no strings attached. Of course. So first and foremost, I do it to try to be nice. Of course, it would be nice if it garnered some, loyalty and appreciation, and they would want to stay. But it's totally up to them. And I have had probably 4 of my Afghan guys leave me after, I paid for their lawyers and they got asylum. So it's not just to get people to stay with me. I mean, they're free to come and go as they please.
being nice. Giving at church is nice. Dropping a few coins at the register in the little tin can, that's nice. You have changed a family's life, and not just one. I mean, you. I'd like to get into it, but right now, but you take on these challenges, these endurance races, and you do it for all sorts of great causes. For one, on a whim, you agreed to guide me for what was our first race? Was it Green?
It was Boston. Yeah, I forgot about that. Right.
That's yeah. So
yeah, we didn't know each other. I forgot about that. You're right. And I think I had the flu, didn't I? Didn't we do 2 of them? I feel like I had the flu in one. And I almost didn't make it. I was guiding you, but you might have been carrying me. But yeah, that's how we met. Guiding at Boston, me guiding you.
I love retelling that story of how we were introduced by our coach, Lisa. And
Lisa's awesome.
She said, I know a perfect guy for guiding you in Boston. And mind you, I qualified for Boston because I was blind. They have slightly different rules for qualification. But I figured if a guy could has run Boston, and so I was actually thinking you're a fast guy, and you sent me an email and said, how fast, what kind of pace are you looking at? I don't know, 9 minutes, 4 hour or so. And I'm thinking, qualifying at my age, if I was sighted, is something like a 3:20. And, so you responded with, well, I haven't run for speed in a while. I'll have to start training. And I'm like, who is this guy? Then I found your personal page, the frankfumich.com, and I looked at this bio sheet of all the endurance races you've run, and I'm like, oh man, I got to keep my mouth shut. You have done some of you've done some of the kind of races that you've done some of these challenges around the world that people who run, I always describe you as like people who run 5 and 10Ks, look at people who run half marathons and goes, that's kind of crazy. And people who've run, maybe half marathons, look at the full marathons, runners, and they're like, that's kind of crazy. Like that, running 26.2 miles, that's crazy. And then people who run maximum marathon, look at people run ultras, like 100 milers. I'm like, that's nuts. 24 hours or more, that's crazy. But the people who run 100 milers, they point at Frank Fumich and they go, that dude is crazy. Yeah, because for one, you recalled to me your running of Badwater race. I just finished.
Yeah.
But you didn't prepare quite as much as I did. How did you prepare for Badwater?
Well, man, that was so long ago. That was more stupidity than guts. I really didn't even know what I was getting into. Back then, the entry requirements were nothing like it is now. I had run one ultra. I did a 50 miler, and I wrote a good essay, and I donated $1,000 to Challenge Athletes Foundation, and they let me in. So I had never run, a step further than 50 miles when I started Badwater. And now, you have like, I don't know, maybe, did you have one van or, you probably had one van or 2 vehicles. Did you have one van when you did yours?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you have one vehicle when you did your Badwater?
Yeah, you're only allowed one.
No. Okay. And I don't know how many volunteers you had. So I had my brother and my a buddy of mine. Neither one of them were runners. And we had absolutely no idea what we were doing, from nutrition to, there was no foot care. There was nothing. My feet blistered up, and I put on like sandals and ran the last 70 miles and basically flip-flops. So that was like nothing short of a miracle. I finished that, but yeah, it was a little bit crazy.
But even
As you know, I mean, it's brutal.
but even though you're raising money for charity, and before we ran Boston, I I found a news article about how you ran from, was it New York?
Yeah, DC to Boston,
Oh, DC to Boston.
or the
You ran to Boston to run Boston.
correct. Yeah, we ran from DC to Boston, and then we ran the Boston Marathon course, raising money for the Boston bombing victim. That's actually that's how it all started. Honestly, on a whim, I was so just pissed off, honestly, about the bombings, and none of my friends were hurt or injured, but I was just so angry about it. And when I saw that little boy died, you know, and having kids, it's just like a whole, you know, your life before kids and your life after kids, your mentality. And so I just wanted to help. And so again, on social media, just decided to run 3 marathons back to back to back, you know, on my own, not official marathons, for the 3 initial victims that were killed, and raised money for them. And I did that. I had a couple friends join me, 78 point whatever, and raised, the goal was 26,200, thousand in unison with the marathon. Raised that. And then I thought, wow, well, instead of just sending a check up there, why don't we run a check up there? And so we organized that, and we ended up raising 80-some thousand for a couple of the victims. And that's how that experience of running up there and meeting total strangers that were following along and would come out on the side of the road at like 3 a.m. that I'd never met before and were running with us, and go to a gas station and have, you know, somebody pump our gas for free and give us free food. And I still have friends that I met during that I'm still friends with now. And so that feeling of community and how everyone came together over a tragedy and adversity and wanting to help, that like, I was like, wow, you know, it's not often you find your calling in life. And after that, I was like, man, I think this is it. You know, it's not starting my own company or this, that. It's doing this stuff and helping people and bringing people together and along for the ride. And so that's how it all started. All the charity stuff, doing races for a cause. That's how, it started at that DC to Boston.
In fact, when you agreed to guide me for my first ultramarathon, a very sweaty 12-hour race in Georgia, you were just 2 weeks off of your riding Ram Ride Across America, which, by the way, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have asked. Because there's almost no way you're gonna say no. But what would inspire you, or what the hell were you thinking? Taking a bike across the United States in 12 days?
Oh man, yeah, that I forgot that we did that Georgia race a couple weeks after that. You're right, I hadn't run in months because I was cycling. Oh, dude, Ram is the hardest thing I've ever done. So I failed in my first attempt 2 years before, but I'm not a cyclist, so I had never even heard of Ram. I know it sounds hard to believe, but I hadn't. And I came across a cause. Actually, Jackie Ho, who was in my DC to Boston crew, sent me an email about a local young man, Ryan Divney, that was beat up at my alma mater, West Virginia University. It was in a comatose state for years, and his dad quit his job to take care of him 24/7. I was so moved by that. I literally Googled like hardest races on the planet, you know, because I wanted to do something that was super impossible, to get a lot of attention, to raise money and help him. And I was like, wow, this Ram race, this sounds brutal. And I don't even like own a bike basically right now. So I emailed I did some research, you know, Google, you can pretty much do anything. found his dad's information and literally wrote him an email. It's like, hey, Ken, my name is Frank Fumich. I'm local. I went to WVU. I'm not crazy. You know, here's my website. Google my name. I'm legit. You know, there's a lot of wackos out there these days. And introduced myself to him and said, I'd like to do something really crazy and hardcore and raise money for Ryan's care. And so that's why I picked Ram, actually, 100%. Now, the second time I picked it because it just about killed me the first time and I just wanted to finish it. So that's why I picked it the second time to try to finish it. But I also wanted to do it for a good cause. And I did it for Hope Cam, my buddy Len Forkes' charity that helps kids with cancer. But those are the reasons, you know, the first time I legitimately did it 100% to help Ryan. And the second time I hate being defeated. And so I went back to finish it.
It's just, it's incredible. But okay, so you do all of this do-gooding. What you batter your body in these incredible endurance races. And sometimes you just do them for the fun of it. Like was it snowshoeing, or was it skiing across a frozen lake in Siberia? What was that? Wasn't for anything in particular. That was just a bunch of guys go and have some fun.
Yeah, that was just a pure on adventure, no money raised, and not even a race. That was just a full on. That was fun, actually. I thought you were going to mention the South Pole ski, and I was going to say that wasn't so fun. I'm showing my thumb on the screen here. You can't see it clearly, but if I show it from this direction, it's okay. If I twist it, you can kind of see where it's sort of looks like it's taking a knife. But yeah, some stuff is quote unquote fun, but you know, I love the challenge. And if I'm not raising money for a cause, I do marathons all the time. I do them for the challenge because they're still hard. I mean, running 26.2 is never easy for me, at least. And I always like something on my calendar. I'm just addicted to pushing myself. And if I don't, I feel lazy. And my wife's like, you said fun. Every time I go up for like a marathon, my wife's like, oh, have fun. I'm like, fun's got nothing to do with it. I don't even like running. You know, I just do it for the challenge and to stay active and healthy. And when it's over, I enjoy the feeling of accomplishment, but I actually don't enjoy running. Newsflash.
That's fine. I know you said you weren't a big fan of cycling. But
I hate cycling.
Was that? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan myself. I do like running, but not so sure. I've only done the Nordic style skiing once. And of course, my first try, I wasn't great at it. It just seemed like a lot of work in the cold. But you said I don't know if you mentioned this, but you lost a piece of your thumb because of frostbite going to the South Pole, right?
Yep, correct.
All right. So I started this question a little bit earlier, but where does this, for one, why do you take on these challenges? And two, where does this sense of charity come from, this drive?
Well, I take on the challenges simply for the challenge. Again, I don't love the physical activity. I do enjoy going to far out places. I do love that part, going to seeing places that I would never go to if I wasn't doing one of these crazy events, or that 99.9% of the population would never get to go at the South Pole, North Pole. I mean, who does stuff like that? So that is cool. And I like pushing myself. But it's at some point, after you've done so many things, it is kind of selfish to just keep going out there. And so to couple that in a way that brings eyes on a cause, and you can actually do some good and help people and then bring people together, I think makes it super worthwhile and much more meaningful than just doing it to hang another medal on my wall.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, personal achievement is one thing, and it's good enough most of the time. but to you endure more when you're enduring for somebody else or a greater cause, something outside. And that was the reason for it was a huge part of me finishing Badwater was doing it for building homes for heroes, and it felt good to be there and to be doing something that would benefit somebody else. And of course, like I said, and you said, that personal achievement feels good too. And to have those goals, those challenges on the calendar, keep you fit, keep you working out. So
100%.
When I don't have something on the calendar, I fall apart. I'm not training, and it kind of goes like crap around here. The wheels start falling off. And so I definitely need constant challenge. And I think that's true for everybody. We need
I totally agree. And to get back to what you just said about, the incentive to not quit, I can tell you without a doubt, my second RAM, well, either both of them, but on the second one, I picked a child that HopeCam helped, so I could make it more personal and get people more involved. And I, got to know them a little bit. And I put their picture for 12 days. I picked 12 kids with cancer. And each day, my crew would tape their picture to my aero bar. So I was staring at their picture the entire time. And if it wasn't for those kids, I definitely would have quit like way sooner, because that was so hardcore that it just wouldn't have been worth it, even for my own pride, to keep going. I was such a mess. So only because I was doing it for those kids, and so those parents could tell the child that, hey, Frank is still biking for you. Today's your day. That's the only thing that kept me going, for sure.
I think I've touched on this topic with others before, and you said some of these things are selfish in the fact that you get to go on these adventures. You get to go see the different parts of the world, and there's different types of experiences. But there's a different kind of selfish when we do these charitable things, because it makes us feel better. We feel more connected to our community, and we feel like we're doing good for others. It lifts us up, not just others, when we're doing it for a greater cause. And yeah, you can call it selfish, and perhaps that's true, but it's the good kind of selfish.
I agree. Yeah, totally agree.
So tell me, even raising money, raising funds for good causes, you put in a lot of your own treasure, your hard-earned money into a lot of these things. I think you told me you raised almost $80,000 for that second round for child cancer, but you paid out of pocket for all of the expenses, and it was almost the same amount. It's almost equivalent. All right, it was like $80,000 because you had to get an RV, the bike. Is that about right?
Yeah, it wasn't that much, but it's probably 50 or 60,000. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But
Still super expensive.
Yeah. Well, it just running Badwater, it blew my mind how expensive it was to run that race. And same, I mean, I spent a lot just because you got to pay for crew, vehicles, food, lodging, airfare, and I mean it really adds up. So, but you are indirectly giving to that cause as well, to get you there to raise the money for these
True.
So how did you set your life up to the point where you can do so much, make so much impact? Maybe I'm not asking this right, but how did you get to the point where
How can I afford it? This is what you're asking in an indirect way.
it's a pretty broad question, but I'm saying, how did you start this business? You're investing, I know, in real estate.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how is it that you can run this company, but then you can take off? You don't just take off for these challenges. You take your family on some pretty incredible vacations, adventures around the country, the world. So it seems like you're living a life that's very full, and it's full of giving to others as well. And now, how is it that is possible?
Oh man, there was a lot of questions in that, and I don't think your I don't think your podcast episodes are long enough. But yes, for the most recent part of that, first I'll try to work my way back. I do also do lots of family fun because I try to balance. I mean, I can't just be traveling the world doing crazy adventures and leaving my family behind. So we do try to take some awesome family trips, adventures together as well. But the key word to every part of the success is work. I mean, I was a hustler as a little kid, and eventually the hustles turned into legitimate businesses. But I mean, I was shoveling when it snowed and the kids were running to the sled hill. I was shoveling my old neighbors' driveways, and I'd show up at the sledding hill with $40 in my pocket, that kind of thing. I was always working. I mean, I could tell you hilarious stories of being like a little kid and just hustling side gigs that I couldn't believe I did. But, and then out of college.
Right there. As a kid, though, you're hustling for what? For why? And because I know, it was a lot of kids. When I was a kid, I would hustle until I had the money in my pocket, then I'd go blow it on something. So,
well, yeah, I don't think I was saving it as a little kid, but I quickly learned that if you want to spend money on what you want, you have to make it. You know what I mean? That you're in charge of your own destiny. No one's going to give you anything. I mean, sure, I grew up in a probably middle class, maybe upper middle class, barely. And I was probably spoiled, actually. So, but my dad was like a 9-to-5er. I mean, professional man, lawyer, worked in the government, but he was still working 9 to 5, playing golf on weekends. He was not working, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And I don't ever recall, I mean, I learned everything from my parents, but I don't ever recall my dad sitting me down, like hammering home work ethic. It was just something somehow that was always in me. And I guess maybe they felt like they didn't have to. So some of that stuff, I'm not sure is learned. I just feel like I was born with an entrepreneurial gene, and I always wanted to work. And I would blow off fun all the time to make extra money. When I got out of college, I managed my brother's which is how I got into the airline catering company. But I mean, I was working in a food court restaurant in the airport, or a hot dog stand, we called it. And I got a part-time job with the airline, really just so I could get the flying benefits, but obviously I got paid. And then on the weekends, this is in the summer, I'd go to the beach, and I was a bouncer in a bar. So I was working 3 jobs. I mean, there was basically no days going by that I wasn't on one clock or another, make money. I got out of college, I moved back in with my parents, and I saved every penny I made. The first $50,000, I bought a townhouse, and then I invited all my friends and rented all the rooms out to them. I mean, at one point, I think I was sleeping on the couch in the rec room because I had all the bedrooms rented out. You know what I mean? So, and so then I just started investing. I mean, I bought my first house, I don't know, 20-some years ago, and all the money I made, I started buying houses. And, the airline business is kind of a scary business. I went through 9/11. The airline went bankrupt twice on me, 2 mergers, a pandemic. so I was always playing the what if game. You know, you always got to have a plan B. And so the real estate was my plan B. And fortunately, they've both done great, thank God. So that's how also I've been able to, you know, pay my way through races. And you know, when I raise money for a race, I never have taken any money to pay for my costs. You're right. I've always paid for that personally. And every penny I raise has gone to the people I've raised it for. You know, some people get sponsorships and take money to afford to do the race. But unfortunately, because I've worked so hard for so many years, I mean, and also I can take these trips. You asked that question too. Yeah, now I have managers and, you know, corporate positions, and they run the day-to-day, and I take care of all the office stuff. So now I can take trips and do all this stuff. But even on my first Ram, I was the manager, the day-to-day manager in my DC airport operation. And honest to God, I was taking, I guarantee I was the only Ram racer that was doing business calls, biking across the country. And I remember my ice machine here broke in DC, and I had to buy like a $40,000 ice machine on my bicycle. And I got back, and honest to God, I had no recollection. I saw like a $40,000 charge on my credit card. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then it came back to, I'm like, oh my God, I bought an ice machine like somewhere halfway across Kansas, you know, when I was totally delusional. So when I finished that, I was like, okay, if I want to continue doing this stuff, I need to step out and hire, you know, a manager here even. So now, you know, I surround myself with smart, good people, and they can do that stuff, and I can afford the financial aspect and the time to take off.
You know, work hard, you hustle, you showed, you hired managers, showed them how, you know, by example, how it's supposed to be done. And then it's so like the you, we, or me, you, we, right, I got that right. Me, we, you, I got that right. It's where you showed them how the job was supposed to be done. And then once you got the systems in place, the right people in the system working for you, they're able to step back. And you said it's great that you started house hacking before it even had a name. That's pretty incredible. So you also seem to have, at an early age, a good financial literacy. Did that come from your parents?
I'm sure it started from them. You know, my parents were good savers too, and I got super into like stocks when I was in high school, and so I was when lots of people were checking like sports scores, I was looking at my my mutual funds. I remember like on the Washington Post, you could actually see what they would tick up, and I would get super excited to see daily what I mean. It seems so pointless now, but you know, I'd get excited about that. But yeah, I think they instilled that in me, and I was always. I mean, my wife would maybe argue that I'm not a good saver, but I am a great saver. You know, they say put the first 10% for you, and then I mean, I save 90% for me, and then try to spend the 10%. I save first, and I'm fanatical about my finances. So yeah, I've always been a pretty good investor. I don't always make the great calls all the time, but I've pretty good investor, but I've always been a great saver and a great worker to make the money to save, for sure.
Yeah, well, that reminds me, when I was in high school, we had I don't know, it was like an elective business class, but it wasn't much of anything. And part of it, I mean, it was a personal finances class or something like that. And as one of the sections in the class was about, it was like paper trading. Nobody knew anything about it, including the teacher. And we basically just picked stocks off of like the pink sheets, where you had the previous day's last, close, and then today's open or whatever, and really didn't know what was going on. And I would just get the morning paper and go off of the previous. It was basically I was looking back in time and guessing what was going to happen today.
Right, but it was setting the seed in your brain. I mean, it was training you to think financially and thinking about money. And I mean, I feel like I have twin 13-year-old girls, and when they come home and tell me what they're doing in math class, I'm like, man, I wish they were, you're never going to use this. I mean, unless you're going to become an accountant, like I wish they'd been teaching more math sense and how to save your money, balance your checkbook, and show them the stock market, that type of stuff. Like, I think that's, start getting them thinking about that.
Balancing a checkbook, and checkbooks are on their way out.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Checkbook, just by balancing what you're spending with what you're making, you can't spend more than you're bringing in. I mean, our countries can't seem to understand that, but you certainly can't run a business the way you're running a country right now. I mean, you can't spend money.
I disagree. You can absolutely spend more than you're making.
Yeah, well, apparently you can. You're right.
People do it all the time, especially in the United States. They spend far more than they're making and get themselves in a lot of trouble with.
Yeah, actually, you're right. You can, and they do. That's the problem. I should have said you shouldn't spend more money. It's funny. My buddy Alex in San Diego, he's one of my great adventure friends, and he's got a furniture business. It was a hot tub business, and it blew up, and he moved from Cleveland to San Diego, and neither one of us claimed to be the smartest people around, and it's all this business stuff, and we always say, that the key to our business is you bring in more than you spend. That's the key to the success. I mean, it's pretty simple.
It's really very simple, but it's not so easy for a lot of people because we've built an economy on this consumerism and financing, and it's like a candy store out there for all these consumers, and kids growing up, they don't know any better.
Yeah, I think I heard on the radio yesterday, even wealthy people are carrying a higher credit card debt or higher debt in general than they have in I don't know how long. So it's even successful people that just, always, I guess, trying to keep up with the Joneses and buy more than they can afford. And yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So, okay. So you started with, you said it was a townhouse. Did you buy it in college?
No. Like 5 years after I moved back home, saved all my money, and I bought it. So, maybe 24, 25, something.
And you introduced me to one of your college friends in Atlanta who's a property manager, and you told me you set up a deal with him, agreement, a partnership. Is that where it led to? Did you continue buying yourself? You partnered with your friend in Atlanta and let him start helping to build your portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, lots of the key to my success is partnering with people that are a lot smarter than I am. And he was really smart guy, super into real estate, literally moved to Atlanta because the real estate market there was so good for this kind of thing. And yeah, I've partnered with him. So basically, I provide them the cash. He finds houses, we buy them. I pay for them in cash. He guarantees me the first 7%. And then we split every percent over that. And then if we sell a house, we split the upside. But he does all the work. I mean, if you ask me the ins and outs of real estate right now, I'd tell you to call him because, he's the one that knows it. He's the professional, and I'm basically just the finance guy behind it. But I've been doing that with him for 20 years probably. And then I took that same business model, and I have a partner here, and we have, I think, 5 small apartment buildings, like an hour away from DC, same principle. And because, I don't really have time to be a full-time real estate person. I'm running my business and all this other stuff. So I let them do the work, and I don't mind giving a portion of my profit to them. It seems like a great deal. So that's how I've been doing it.
Well, I mean, that's what partnerships are for, right? Yeah, you find people that you can trust to do their area of expertise and cover down on your weaknesses or the areas that you you don't want to focus on. So you can focus on your superpower, right? Your area of influence and expertise and interest.
Exactly.
So you run the airline catering company and um, and focus on the things that are important to you, like your family and these adventures and doing some incredible stuff, like changing Bobo's family's life in such an amazing way. Uh, they're not just escaping um, after the dangerous and awful life, even if the the even if they weren't being persecuted, um, they're leaving an entire different way of life uh, to the United States and an opportunity for something. Who knows what? But I was thinking, by the way, um, with all this goodwill coming in, he might just quit and like,
Right.
I'm set. This is a fortune where in Africa. I'm gonna go back. He could go back and buy out the warlord or something.
Yeah, you know what? He could. Like I said, he's got his own free will. He hasn't signed anything. He is free to go. And again, I do it first to try to be a good person.
I'm sure, but I just me and my sardonic humor. So, what's next on the horizon for you? Got anything planned? Any adventures? What's happening next for you?
Well, besides what is today? Friday, Saturday, in 3 days, you and I are running a Marine Corps marathon together. Besides that little jaunt, the next big thing, February, I think around 6, I go off on that World Marathon Challenge. So I was kind of running out of things to do, and that was always sort of in the back of my mind. Is like, yeah, when I get older and like I don't have a specific event, this would be fun. So my buddy Alex and I are gonna run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. And so we start off in Antarctica and then South America, and I forget the list after that, but that'll be a fun little adventure. Fun.
When you announced that on Facebook, that's in when's that? That's in January.
February.
When you announced that on Facebook, I texted Lisa. Yeah, dude, said he stole my idea.
Oh, did you want to do that? I didn't know
after running Boston in 2015, I ran 4 marathons, and then I got qualified for Boston, and I was on top of the world, and I was looking for some new challenges, and I stumbled upon World Marathon Challenge. I'm like, this is awesome. That's what I want to do. Then I found out how much it costs. I'm like, skip it.
Yeah, it's not cheap. You're right.
Well, before you had to buy all these business class tickets that were refundable because you didn't know the weather, from one spot to another, and you start flying from Chile onto Antarctica, which the flight itself isn't cheap, but the weather is so unpredictable there. But then you got to fly back. So I think now they charter a flight so you're on the same plane the whole time. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. They charter a flight, and but you still got to worry about the weather, which is why you start in Antarctica, and they got to get a window to get you there, run it, and get the hell out of there, and then you're kind of home free. But then I guess weather could screw it up any way along the way, but hopefully, fingers crossed, you can pull it off.
I wish you all the best on that. That's going to be some adventure.
Thanks, buddy.
Is there anything that I should have asked that I missed?
No, man, I think you covered everything pretty good.
I really appreciate
I'm looking forward to running this weekend. I can't wait to see
Yeah,
you.
look, 2 days. And we'll be on the road on Sunday.
It'll be fun. Yeah, we'll be slogging along like usual.
You're not gonna break any land speed records. I'm just telling you, too many cookies.
I would agree with you there.
Frank, if anybody wanna,
Neither one of us. It's not your fault.
we'll finish. That's about the best I can hope for. Is there, if anybody wants to learn more about helping Bobo and his family, about some of your adventures, is there a link or a social media page that they can go to reach you?
Yeah, well, my personal page, Frank Fumich, my profile pic is I think me on Denali. There's not too many Fumichs anyway, so if every post I've done in the last 2 weeks got Bobo plenty of ways to help. And I have another, my kind of racing page that's just turned into another page is Following Frank on Facebook. I've got a website, frankfumich.com, but that's woefully unupdated. So basically my Facebook is where everybody can find out anything about Bobo or anything.
I looked at it last morning. I was reading, it was something about raise money for Jake. So I don't know what that is, but good luck to Jake too.
Oh no, I don't know what that is. I wonder if you read something wrong or I misspelled something. No, I haven't met a Jake. I need these. Yeah, maybe I'll look.
Find you on Facebook and on take the website with a grain of salt. Anyways, Frank, this is fantastic. I'm always so impressed and always want to. I always love looking to you for the example of how to live life to its fullest and make an impact. So thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Hey man, look, right back at you. If you're not the inspiration, you should be interviewing yourself. I look to you for inspiration. So thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Oh shucks, you're gonna make me blush. Frank, thanks a lot, and I'll see you in a couple days.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thank you.